Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how I would like you to edit your White Studio portraits using NYX Silver Effects. So again, you would have taken your photographs using RAW. You would have maybe used some RAW sliders if you wanted to, but it may be that you just opened them up and just took them into Photoshop straight away and basically just saved them. So 10 by 15 with a resolution of 300 pixels per inch. And then now you are going to take it into NYX and go into Silver Effects. Now you may or may not have watched the Viveza tutorial, and if you did, then you would in Viveza you would not have presets, but with Silver Effects they do give you starting presets. So you would use Viveza if you wanted to do quite sort of standard portraits, but NYX Silver Effects it's very, very good, and it's still very good at doing, really nice editing. But also, you definitely would use it if you wanted to go for slightly more scratchy, sort of edgier photographs. So, what I'm wanting from the White Studio portraits, if I can, is for you to give me something a bit scratchier and a bit edgier and not perfect at all. Okay, now, but you need to avoid this high structure. Okay, so what we're looking for, and also, what was it? Nothing too dark. Now you can go light, and then we can again. It's got control points within it, and also it's got the brightness, the contrast, and the structure up here. But I think this one might be quite a good kind of place to start. And obviously there's because it's a there's a preset in it. It's already preset the contrast quite high, so that's why you've got that kind of look. So obviously you want to avoid going too extreme with your structure. I think the brightness. Is quite good. And then if you sort of, I don't know, come off it, and then go back on, you can see everything that you've done to it will be gone, and you'll just be back to the preset itself. So what I'm looking for is something where it's contrasty, it's a bit edgy, it's quite graphicsy, I suppose. And then I'd like you to go into finishing adjustments. Now with your toning, the rule of thumb is you have little groups of 3, so 3 sepias, 3 coppers, but you never choose the bottom 2. Can you see? So you never choose that one or that one, but you could go for that one. You never go for that one or that one, but you could go for that one. So you might want to put only one of the top toners on if you want to. Coffee's quite nice. And I want to avoid the blues really. That's quite nice as well. The Celerium. So it just gives you something slightly different. You really want to avoid anything too blue. The cyanotap's okay. The coffee's quite nice. And you kind of want to avoid So the copper as well. It's up to you, but that's what's in toning. But what I'm really interested in is the vignette and the burning the edges. So if I go to vignette, what you've got is this. It's kind of slightly old-fashioned, you know, where the corners are burnt in. They're all slightly different. See, it's quite nice. And again, it gives you that kind of, it's imperfect, but it's the right kind of imperfect. So there are certain aesthetics that that doesn't go down very well on the course, you know, like it doesn't score very well, and there are other aesthetics that do, and so it's this matter of finding what works and what doesn't. So here I think they both do basically the same thing, vignette and burn edges, which is they give you that kind of old-fashioned sort of feel around the borders. Thing. And obviously it's not going to give you much if your background is white anyway. So black frame 2. Maybe that soft edges for that one. I think that's probably the most. I think for here, I think actually you can when you click on it, you can change kind of the amount, and also you can go from a circle to a rectangle. So see, that's quite a nice aesthetic. And I think what I would then do, I'd probably put a control point here. And again, you've got brightness, contrast and structure, but there's a little triangle here. And then you've got whites, blacks, the fine structure, and the selective colour, which, I mean, I'll show you. It can bring back colour into the image, but it's a bit hit or miss, and it doesn't always work, and it's not great on portraits, but sometimes it works quite nicely with landscapes. So here you amplify the black. You just deal with the black areas within the image. This is amplify the white, so it'll just deal with the lighter parts in the image, so you can just separate them out. So if you just want to deal with one or the other, structure. But remember, it's only doing what's inside the circle. You have to be quite careful because you don't overdo it and you don't want to underdo it either. So there is a kind of a technique to getting this completely right. Now at the minute, can you see the toning is this kind of coffee colour? So it is giving it a bit of a sort of oldie, worldy feel to it, especially with these vignettes. So sometimes you might think, oh, well, that's not kind of edgy enough. So in that case, I think I'd probably go for something like the number 4. Because now you've still got that kind of edgy, scratchy kind of look. It's imperfect, but because it's not sepia and coffee coloured, it doesn't look old-fashioned Victorian anymore. It's a bit more current and a bit more graphic-y. Okay, so you do have to be quite careful with it, and it's like a fine line between it looking, you know, really, really brilliant, exactly what we want, and then it being not very good. But the more that you can practice it in the lower six, then the better it'll be. You'll have, you know, you'll be more experienced with using it, and then you'll be able to get it spot on in the upper six if this is the kind of look that you want. So and then you just, there are other things, you can put in different types of film, and you can put different types of borders on it, but we tend to stay away from that because we don't want it to be over, sort of over edited. We just want this kind of basic look to it. Okay, so this, I mean, you need to play around with it, you need to see what it'll do, but this is just a sort of general introduction into it, and also the type of sort of graphic-y, black and white, scratchy, you know, imperfect image that we're looking for in the white studio portrait triptych. Okay, and that's the end of the tutorial.